Hi everyone, welcome to a low on health game video review where I kind of go over what games I've been playing recently. This time around, I have two 360 games that just came out in the past month or so. It's going to be Dead Rising 2 for the Xbox 360 and Castlevania Lords of Shadows, or Lord of Shadow, or whatever stupid moniker they give it to for the Xbox 360. Both games, right off that, I'll tell you, I wasn't that impressed with, unfortunately. But let me go ahead and just move on to the first one I'm going to talk about, which is going to be Dead Rising 2. Now, I enjoyed the first Dead Rising immensely. It came out on Xbox kind of within its first kind of a year and really kind of showcased what the Xbox 360 could do. And it was kind of, different than your typical now zombie games where they're fast zombies. I mean, these are basically kind of slow, ambering, wandering zombies. And Dead Rising 2 is almost very much like the first one, except the first game focused on photography. You could actually take pictures of the zombies and get points and whatnot and get experience that way. This Dead Rising 2 has taken the photography element out of it and added basically weapon combinations. You can basically take two different kind of weapons and or items and combine them together to make stuff like chainsaws on a paddle, nails in a bat, etc. The thing that kind of it's a design element of the game that it's kind of hit or miss if you like it or not, but it has basically a fixed time frame where certain events only happen at a certain time. You cannot advance time down whatsoever. You have to play through the game straight, chronologically right through it. You can't just start back at a chapter. There's multiple saves and whatnot, but basically it's very a time-driven game. You can't rush through or anything, and that's kind of good because that way you play through the game as the character would play through the game. But some people like me like to not necessarily rush through games, but like to be in control of their own time, and that can kind of put them off. But Dead Rising 2, basically, zombie outbreak happens at kind of a Las Vegas type of gambling city. You have 3 days until the military arrives, and, you kind of have to uncover what actually happened because you've been framed, yada, yada, yada. You have to go around, find survivors. This is one of the maintenance rooms. Now, basically, the first one, the Dead Rising, the gameplay is almost identical to this, where it's not clunky, but it is what it is. It's kind of slow to a point, but what I was hoping for is your item selection, which is usually a top in that left-hand corner where that bat is. It's just a single strip, and you basically cycle through it left and right, and if something breaks because there's durability, it goes to the next item. Later on in the game, as you level up, you'll have a bunch of items. Your drinking stuff, your healing items, your food, your books that give you kind of passive stats and whatnot. The problem is once something breaks, you automatically go to the next one, which I hate because basically you're using a bat, the battle break, and then boom, you go to your drink and you drink it. That might have been a drink you were holding for and your health might have been fine, but you went ahead and used it. I would have liked to have more of a stacked kind of system for your items, like maybe with the D-pad, like your vertical stack would be healing items, your passive on the left, weapons on the right. Something that wasn't exactly like the first one, maybe kind of a step forward as opposed to not even really a step, almost a step back, as I would almost say with this one compared to the first one. The story is kind of the same old, same old. One thing that kind of got to me is the loading screen. Even with the game loaded onto the hard drive on the Xbox 360, to get from point A to point B, you would have to go through multiple load screens. And honestly, I would almost plan how I was going to get to places depending on how many load screens I would have to transition through. Just because, granted, they're not long, but going through 2 or 3 in a row gets kind of annoying. This game, another thing that Dead Rising 2 does differently than the first one, actually, it has co-op. So we can have a friend come co-op in, which is kind of cool. 2 people killing zombies in this environment. It's cool and all, but the problem with me is every time you bring up the map, which is basically, or look at your stats, the other player also gets locked up and says, they're at the menu, and it freezes the game, which is kind of jarring because I would constantly have to check the map, and that's annoying in co-op if somebody checks the map and you're plowing through zombies and then the game freezes on you. Both players also both have to be at the same zone. They can't be in 2 different zones. So basically, if you get 2 doors and you want to go to the next area, you have to wait for the other person to get there, which is okay and all if you're both kind of objectively moving. But I was hoping more of a open-ended, free-form kind of doing stuff. So maybe you could change stuff like, I can go get this person and whatnot. It is nice to go against the psychopaths, which are kind of like the humans that have gone crazy, and you kind of have to take them down. It's kind of nice to have an extra person for that, but I just found the kind of cooperative mode kind of lacking. There is a competitive mode, actually, in this game that's kind of a separate element, where it's kind of like a American Gladiator zombie slaughterfest, where you earn points and money, you go against other people. That was kind of fun. I really enjoyed that. It was just kind of a competitive element to the game, which was really interesting. But Dead Rising on a whole, I really wasn't that impressed with it. The story was okay, but definitely predictable. I mentioned the weapons, and I don't know, it was very much kind of the same as the first game, and almost because you took photography and you took that element out of it, kind of just didn't make me want to play it more. Also, I would say the achievements are kind of lacking. They're more complete achievements, and I'm not really digging those that much, but that's just me complaining about that. But it's a good game. I did play through it twice because, of course, there is kind of like different endings depending on what you do, and I did get an S-class rating, and then I went back through it a different way just to kind of grind on stuff and get the different kind of so-do-bad ending. But Dead Rising 2, it's worth playing, but I cannot say it's better than the first one. I definitely like the first one more. Moving on here, I'm going to talk about, of course, Castlevania Lords of Shadow. This is, of course, the first kind of Castlevania game coming out on the next-gen systems. Now, this Castlevania game is a severe departure from the usual Castlevania Metroidvania type of games, which most of us are used to, like the Symphony of the Night and whatnot. And people are like, "Oh, is this finally a good 3D Castlevania game?" And I will say, Curse of Darkness on the PlayStation 2 was a very, very good game in my opinion. I definitely like that Castlevania game. Granted, it wasn't the same kind of Castlevania game, but it held true more to Castlevania than this game ever did. I was very much disappointed with Lords of Shadow, to the point where I played it for a day, realized it wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I sent it back. It's not a bad game, but it plays like this. I would have liked it to basically be a Castlevania game. It's a lot of open world environments, a lot of kind of hack and slash. It's very God of War-y. It's very kind of Dante's Inferno-y, I would even say. Like, that's not a bad thing to say about it, but I definitely did not enjoy it that much whatsoever. Dracula's not in it, which isn't that big of a spoiler, but if you look into it, this game's kind of it's a prequel of sorts, so maybe that'll help you lead to your own opinions about it, the story. But the story, I was like, meh. The gameplay and design, it's very broken up. The pacing of the game itself is just not very fluid. I'm used to just kind of going through stuff, but every time you come to a new area, the camera will pan around and show you, oh, this is where you got to do. There's a lot of like just kind of hit or miss platforming and kind of poor level direction and level design. A lot of times I wasn't too sure where I wanted to go or how I was supposed to jump, and I would fall and die and kind of respawn. Luckily, it respawned you close enough to it. But this really, which wasn't a Castlevania game in most regards, I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. There isn't really like a heart system. The weapon system isn't that great. I was hoping, you could swap out and do stuff. I just didn't really enjoy it that much. It felt kind of just very kind of phoned in. It just felt very much a very standard kind of hack and slash game, and we have a bunch of these, like I mentioned before, Dante's Inferno and God of War, and I was sick of the God of War series after I played the second one, but I trusted the third one to see what was going to happen, but I found out this game was basically going to be 15 to 20 hours, and I was already having not difficulty, but wasn't enjoying playing the game whatsoever, and I was at like the 4-hour point. I'm like, I'm not going to bother slogging through this, kind of finding out where I got to go and whatnot, and hack and slash, and just be too typical. Like, I didn't even get to a castle yet. It's Castlevania. Where's the freaking castle? I mean, you can do a Castlevania game in 3D and go through a castle and have different hidden stuff, but this just felt more open and more basically kind of, standard. Kind of just your run-of-the-mill phoning game. And I know Kojima worked on this, and I was kind of expecting some more kookiness or stuff, but no, nothing. I mean, maybe some interactive cutscenes or something. It does have QTEs because we all love the QTEs, and that just gets annoying. There's even like a Shadow Colossus ripoff in the game that I just thought was kind of just derivative, and I just didn't really enjoy it whatsoever. But that's just me. It's not a bad game in most elements. It's an okay game, but I just definitely didn't like it that much, and I can't recommend it. And I'm more interested to see what other people have to say about it, but that's really kind of about it. Those are the two games that I've played recently, which is, Castlevania Lord of Shadow and Dead Rising 2, both for the Xbox 360. Look at my information down there if you want to see my breakdown for it. I think I gave both of them around a 7, which wasn't that impressed with them. I kind of got some B-tier games coming out right now, which I should be playing the Halo Wars game, and then I've actually been playing Civilization 5, which those will probably be the next two games I'll talk about. And then after that, I think we have Fallout New Vegas, which should be interesting. I'm very excited to kind of see what that's going to be, because I love the Bethesda. I love the open worldness. Of course, I like Oblivion and Elder Scrolls more than Fallout, but that's just me. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.